Well, hello there, everyday Americans. Paul Engel here with the Constitution Study. Once again, live here. I'm on YouTube. I'm on the website. I'm on, where else am I on? Oh, I'm on Periscope. I forgot about that. I'm glad you done. This is a special edition of the Constitution Study live. Um, I am not on Facebook because Facebook has blocked me. Now, they haven't completely banned me, and supposedly in a few days they'll let me back on, but this will be sent recorded to Facebook once the Ministries of Truth let me out of Facebook jail, and I can once again post there. If you, as usual, if you have any questions, please type them in the comment. I'm hoping, did invite several people, and several people signed up to actually participate live in the Zoom room. The Zoom room has a couple of advantages. One is if you want to talk to me, if you want to ask a question, if you want to interact, the best place to do that is through Zoom. Yes, you can ask questions in the comments, please. In YouTube, Periscope, put your questions in the comments. I will certainly make a point of getting to them. But it's really neat when you and I can talk kind of face-to-face over the internet. So if you're interested, head over to the website constitutionstudy.com/live, and you'll get the chance to register, and you'll get an email link. Every time I go live, you get an email link, usually about a day or so beforehand, of where you can go to join the Zoom room and be part of this a little more live. As I said, if you have questions, if you have comments, please put them in. It's a little bit of a chore for me to go back and forth, but hey, I love answering questions. I love when people are participating. This video is going to be a little different. At least I plan it to be a little different. So I'm really hoping people join in and enjoy it, because I really want this to be interactive. As I get set up, there's a couple things I want you to do. The first thing I want you to do is open up another browser. Now, if you can't, if you're driving or you're on a phone app that doesn't really switch back and forth, I understand. You can watch the recording later and follow me. But here's what I want you to do. Open a web browser, and I want you to go to your favorite search bar, and I want you to search for your state's constitution. Now, I'm going to show you here what I'm talking about. Let's see, where is Safari? There we are. So here is my web browser. I do run a Mac, so mine is Safari, and it's really simple. In the search bar, I type in TN Constitution. Why is that important? Well, actually, let me show you a little trick. For those of you who don't know this, on most search engines, you can put in at the end of your search, you can type cite::.gov. That will give you the government versions. These are usually the official versions hosted by your state of your constitution. So while I'm chatting, while I'm doing this, please go ahead and open up, have a copy of your state's constitution available, because I'm going to ask you to actually interact with it. I think the other thing I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you to head to the website, constitutionstudy.com, and search for Knowing Your Rights. Knowing, Knowing Your Rights. That'll bring up this little PDF file. It's a one-page placard that I use that I'm also going to be referring to. In fact, let me make sure I bring up mine, because it'd be really terrible for me to talk to you about it and not actually have it up and running. But there's a couple things. So as I said, I want this to be fairly interactive. I want you to, I'm going to ask you to do a couple things along with me. And if you do that ahead of time while I'm getting everything set up, that will work really, really well. And where we go. Okay, so as I said, this one's going to be a little different. Now, for those of you who've been watching a while, as I bring everything back up here, those who've been watching a while know that I usually do these on the second and fourth Thursday of the month. Now, I didn't do the fourth Thursday in November because, well, that was Thanksgiving, and I figured people were more interested in spending time with their families than they were listening to me rant on the internet. But what's been going on for the last several months, and what's really escalated over the last few weeks, has really driven me nuts. My head's going to explode. I'm going to run out of duct tape, keeping my head from exploding all over the walls by what I'm seeing. I could not wait another week to tell you this. I could not wait another week to get out here and to speak with you about it. So It's crazy. And I wanted to take the time to talk with you about this and give you the chance to follow along and do what we're going to do. But it's something we really need to start doing now. Now, what, you may ask, has been driving me up the wall, making my head explode for the last 2-3 weeks? And granted, there's a lot of things. I hope you had a good Thanksgiving. I had a good Thanksgiving. That was a nice day off, but there's a lot of crazy stuff. So here's what I want to do. Let me show you what has been driving me crazy for the last 2-3 weeks. I got to enter a password. Few of the headlines that, boy, it's popping a whole bunch of stuff up at me. That a few of the headlines that have caught my attention over the last few weeks. Oh yeah, new COVID restrictions ahead of Thanksgiving. Yeah, that's nice. I only love those. Los Angeles issues new stay-at-home orders. You may be sensing a theme that may show up really, really quickly. The California, the coronavirus message, do as I say, not as I dine. For those of you who haven't followed, that was really interesting. St. Charles orders a curfew, and St. Louis urges quarantine for Thanksgiving. Now, here's interesting. Tennessee, this one, believe it or not, this drove me nuts. See, Tennessee says the Tennessee governor says it's not going to mandate COVID-19 vaccinations in public schools. Now, the reason this drives me nuts is that's because there are people pushing for vaccinating our children to go to public school. The state mandates that you have to send your child to school. They mandate that you must pay the taxes to open a public school. And then they tell you, oh, by the way, if you want your child to go to that school, we have to stick a needle in their arm with a vaccine that has not had any long-term testing. I don't know about you, but space-time continuum doesn't mean a few months of suddenly long-term testing. So that one kind of had me going. Let's see what else you got in here. There's a couple more coming up. Oh yeah, Nashville, right near up the road from me. The health agency threatens a local restaurant owner. How dare she open her restaurant? And then Nashville, they actually arrested 11 people because they had parties. Can you believe this is America? New Jersey's largest city orders a 10-day lockdown right before Thanksgiving. This is a good one. Oregon. The Oregon government says snitch on your neighbors for violating Thanksgiving COVID orders. Restaurant, a big boy, is going to lose a franchise because the corporate weenies they're cowards and they don't want to fight anything. Maryland adds more COVID restrictions. That's really nice of them. I guess if you live in Maryland. My favorite Cuomo, because I used to live in New York, he tells the sheriffs say, we're not going to enforce your illegal order. He says they should be decertified, and then turns around and tells the Supreme Court they're irrelevant when they issue a restraining order from him shutting down or limiting churches. Connecticut's going to fine their citizens $10,000 if they dare to violate the COVID rules. And my personal favorite and most infuriating, Fauci tells Americans now is the time to do what you're told. Can you believe this in America? The land of the free and the home of the brave, and I have an unelected bureaucratic weenie telling me to do what I'm told. I'd like to tell him what he should do. What he should do is he should be run out of office on a rail for daring to believe he has the authority to tell the American people to do as they're told. We are not children. So this, as you can see, has got my dander up. This has been driving me nuts for a bit while. And I don't know, tell me, is this bothered you? The California Thanksgiving restrictions, the New York Thanksgiving restrictions. Look at all these states that have issued Thanksgiving restrictions. Really? You have governments telling their citizens what they can do in their own home, how many people they're allowed to have. They have to be outside. Can you? Is it just me? Is this sound more like the Soviet Union or Cambodia under Pol Pot or China under Mao Zedong? You have governors asking people to snitch. What are they? They the secret police now? They're looking for secret police? Are we going to have our own American Gestapo now from these petty potentates, these small-minded, weak-spined idiots who believe they have the authority to rule? Yes, this gets my dander up. This drives me nuts. And I titled this episode, We the People, for one very simple reason. You see, we look and we point, we say, look what this governor's doing, and look what that mayor is doing, and look what these people are doing. And do you know what we never do? We never look at what the American people are doing. You see, the problem we have here, yes, we have political miscreants trying to assume absolute power, but there have always been politicians that want to abuse their power. They want to do more than they're legally allowed to. There have always been. The question is, why are the American people suddenly unwilling to stand up? A couple weeks ago, I published an article and a video about the Battle of Athens and how everything that's happened with the election today happened in 1946. And the American people today are doing little, except maybe watching the news media and pointing fingers. What can we, the people, do? Now, I've heard several people call for impeaching this and throwing out that and lawsuits here. And I've even heard a couple talk about civil disobedience. Well, here's what I recommend. What I recommend is not civil disobedience. What I recommend is something a little different. I recommend, oops, hang on a second. Let me make sure I didn't do that right. I recommend civil disobedience, but I also recommend this. But actually, not civil disobedience. I recommend, oops, hang on, I gave you the wrong video. Hang on, stop the share. Let's try this again. I think I just made a mess for myself. There we go. That's the one I want.
Around 7 this morning, wooden boards blocking the entrance were kicked in and the doors were opened. On Monday, gym owners Ian Smith and Frank Trombetti were taken into custody for repeatedly defying Governor.
Having technical difficulties. Let's do this. It never ceases to amaze me, but as soon as I seem to have everything working, and then I go live, everything seems to go wiggy again. Let me do this. Let me make sure. Oh, that's why. System was playing out the wrong speakers because suddenly the Mac decided that everything had to go out there. All right. Let's try this again from the top.
Around 7 this morning, wooden boards blocking the entrance were kicked in and the doors were opened. On Monday, gym owners Ian Smith and Frank Trombetti were taken into custody for repeatedly defying Governor Phil Murphy's shutdown order.
Your actions were selfish, putting your own interest ahead of those of the community in which you live. That they disrespected the executive orders of the state, the orders of the county and this city.
He gave her a chance to avoid jail time if she apologized and promised to close until salons are allowed to reopen Friday. His offer did not compel her.
I have to disagree with you, sir, when you say that I'm selfish, because feeding my kids is not selfish. I have hairstylists that are going hungry because they'd rather feed their kids. So, sir, if you think the law is more important than kids getting fed, then please go ahead with your decision, but I'm not going to shut the salon.
It's my first day reopening, and my decision to reopen is purely financial. I got to pay my bills because the bank still wants the money. And unfortunately, the situation I'm in, the money was not. There's no money coming from me. I've received zero money from the government. If I can count on myself, I'll be able to do it all right. But when somebody tells you you can't work. You're putting others at risk. I took it seriously for a little while. And then, of course, I started to learn more about what's going on. And it made my decision a little easier, I don't feel like I'm putting others at risk. And if they feel like they're at risk, they shouldn't come. I totally agree with whatever they decide.
The barber in the city market decided she couldn't wait for the mayor to tell her when to go back to work. Brenda Barrett at the barber shop inside the city market started cutting hair again Monday, and her schedule has been booked solid ever since.
I got to pay all my bills. I can't go 2 months without no money. We only do appointments only, and we bleach wipe the door before and after everyone leaves. After I get done here, I'm going to clean that, and then I Lysol everything, disinfect all the blades, and all the equipment's clean, and we have sanitize our hands, so everything's sanitized.
Echoing CEO Elon Musk's defiant tone against county officials who have ordered it to remain closed amid the lockdown. Tesla on Saturday had sued Alameda County over its decision, alleging the county violated state constitution by defying the governor's orders to allow manufacturers to reopen. Musk threatened to move Tesla's sole U.S. vehicle factory out of California. Then on Monday, Musk said production was resuming, and if anyone had to be arrested, it should be him. Late on Monday, county health officials said they had notified Tesla it could not operate without a county-approved plan. But despite the mounting conflict, production appeared to shift into gear Tuesday afternoon.
It's a mounting struggle throughout New York City. For weeks, mom and pop stores with limited access to online sales or alternative income have sat closed, while other big chains have stayed open. And now they're running out of savings.
And how long is it going to take? Like 3 months, 5 months, and how long is it going to be?
It's why this beauty store manager in the Bronx has opened, even though he knows his store is not essential. And he's not alone.
It's never full in general, so one person, 2 people.
This furniture store worker also admitted she's opened the doors and has been taking her chances. One store advertised a grand opening, a florist.
Today was your first day back open.
Down the street, a shoe store and a clothing store were also reopening. They had started selling masks, sanitizers, and paper towels, but otherwise, nothing essential. A spokesperson for the governor's office described reopening now, before the all clear, as putting both customers and staff at risk and potentially slowing down the entire reopening process.
It's just not acceptable. It's dangerous.
The mayor has acknowledged these businesses are struggling.
I'm going to pay you if they don't be nothing at the bare end.
But ignoring the state's public health order is a safety risk the mayor says this city can't afford.
See, now, those are all videos I acquired, I copied, I got links for. And you notice what they're doing. You're dealing with civil disobedience. I don't know what it is about barbers and hairdressers. But did you notice how you had the hairstylist in Texas, you had the barber, then you had the lady. I had 3 in a row. 3 people who cut hair in a living said, well, we just got to cut hair. We can't, we're not made of money. We need to earn money. The stylist said she had hairstylists that were going hungry because they didn't have enough food to feed their kids. So they were giving their kids their food. They were hungry because people in government assumed they had the power to tell you what was essential or not and whether not to shut down. Now, I don't know about you, I find that offensive. And I think our founding fathers would have stood up long before this. This is the type of crap that Britain pulled on the colonies, and now it's happening here. But there's a couple things I hope you notice, and if you need to, you can go back and watch it again. These, for the most part, they were non-confrontational. The hairstylist in Texas said, I disagree. Feeding children is more important than your law. If that's what you want to do, go for it. If you think the law, which is illegal because it's unconstitutional, then go for it. Tesla said, listen, I'm opening up. If anybody's going to get arrested, arrest me. How many American people are willing to stand up and say, I don't care. I will kick in the door. I will bypass the tape. I will go through and I will open my store. But the other thing you notice is look at, you saw Mayor de Blasio. It's unsafe. Unsafe for who? Tell me, unsafe for who? The barber had it right. Listen, I don't think I'm endangering anybody. I'm not forcing anybody to come in here. If they think it's unsafe, then stay away. We're not talking about forcing people to go out and do business. We're talking about allowing people. We're not even talking, no, let me rephrase that. We're talking about recognizing the inherent right to their liberty and their property that the American people have. And it's about time they start exercising it. I've been in a discussion. Somebody contacted me. They're having a discussion, and they're asking me questions to get information to counteract them about the ability to ignore laws. And we're going to talk about that a little bit in just a minute. But that's the general idea. Don't be aggressive. Don't be argumentative. But simply say, no, I am not going to bow to an illegal executive order. I'm not going to abide by an illegal law. I will not comply. Now, will there be consequences for that? Yes. The lady in Texas went to jail. Places have been fined. People have been cited. But I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to ask it several times. What is your liberty worth? What are your rights worth? Is it worth possibly spending a night in jail? Is it worth being fined? What is your children's rights and liberty worth? If we won't stand up, you heard give an inch, they'll take a mile. Well, they're taking a lot more than an inch. And right now, most American people seem to be letting it happen. But as I said, there's good news. Look at how many people. New York City was basically ground zero for the COVID-19 in America. And even there they said, we'll do what we got to do. You tell us we're supposed to, we need to sell something essential. Fine, we'll sell masks and paper towels. We don't care. We're going to do this. An extremely blue city in a blue state is saying, no, we won't stand for this anymore. But what do you say? Well, Paul, I don't own a business. What am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to do when people, when stores are I don't know, or the police are, what am I supposed to do? Well, I want to show you one more video. And I pulled this video, together for a couple reasons. Again, the previous video was about there is hope. There are people willing to stand up. You are not alone. If you have the urge to stand up to tyranny, to say no to illegal laws and orders, you are not alone. There are people across the country doing the very same thing. But what if you don't have a business that you can open? What if you're just an everyday working Joe, working Jane, you've got a job to do? What can you do? I want you to watch this video. Now I'm going to warn you, the first couple minutes of this first video may be a little disturbing. If you've got small children, you may not want them to watch. It's not gross, but it's a little disturbing.
Around 7 this morning, wooden boards blocking the entrance were kicked in, and
I shared the wrong one again. Where are we going here? I keep getting, I don't know if I'm just confused or it's just been a long day, and there we are. Let's try this one. No, that's not the one I want. I'm going to do this one more time because I think either I've got multiple QuickTime windows open, and I think maybe I've got Zoom confused. So let's try this. This may be just a little disturbing. You may have seen this. This is a mom who's watching her son play football in the weight room. There was a mother and other family members. They're socially distanced. I am. And I believe this is a school resource officer. I haven't confirmed it, but somebody is sending out.
Get off of me! Put your hand behind your back. I will not put my hand behind my back. I'm not crazy. Doing nothing wrong.
Outdoors.
Get off of me!
As you watch this, I want you to know
something. Get off of me! You're not arresting me for nothing. I'm doing nothing.
This is over a mask.
You're not arresting me for not doing nothing wrong.
much going on. No one is standing up for this.
It's not.
This woman is all martyred. This one person that's standing up all alone.
Let's walk with my friend.
A bully to the back. But simply submit to your.
Oh my God!
Wait.
You're not arresting me!
Is he an actual police officer?
I don't know.
Somebody needs to call the police.
Okay, so you're arresting.
I don't think he can arrest her for not wearing a mask.
Somebody needs to call the police.
This is not a warning. Call the cops, Raven.
Call the cops?
Yeah.
Will you talk to them?
I don't know if he's a real officer.
It says police on the side and on his back.
Doesn't mean anything. But he may be, Bridget, because there's a cop car over there. There's a cop car over there.
Do you want to call him?
Tase somebody over a mask. Tasing this lady over not wearing a damn mask.
It's time for me to go back to Florida.
Arrested for trying to back. Other than one guy standing up to see everyone else standing on the back.
And I'm going to sue you for knocking me down.
Why isn't anybody helping this woman? Why isn't anyone coming to her defense?
Arresting her for a mask, not wearing a mask, but he ain't even got one on.
Right.
Hey, where's your mask?
Mark, what, the vaccine?
Remember, we're infected together now, right, guys? We've done this how many times together?
We do have compassion for people who.
Okay, well, you need to go have compassion out in the parking lot.
But
this is private property. This is private property. This is private property.
Yes,
it's private property. Go get a warrant. Listen, man, this is private property. They're not wanted here. So do your jobs.
Well, her job is.
Well, no, your job is to remove people that are not wanted here. We're wanted here. They're not.
She's hiding her name tag. She had her
I'm
name
not.
tag.
It's right here. It's marked here. You can see my name.
They're just doing their job.
There we go.
You should all be wearing masks.
I'm not doing anything wrong.
Don't worry about my health. My health isn't your concern.
You're meant to be wearing a mask. It's a government.
Okay, well then write me up.
It's the law.
Okay, then take me to jail.
It's not the law.
Then take me to jail. Show me the law. Show me the law. Show me the law.
Well, I think we gotta go, John.
You have to leave. You guys have to leave.
You guys need to leave.
You have to leave.
Right now you're trespassing without a warrant. You need
That's
to
civil disobedience now.
You're trespassing.
You're not trespassing.
You're trespassing.
It doesn't matter. We have a right to be here.
Then get a warrant, dude. Go get a warrant.
Get a warrant.
Go get a warrant.
Yes,
you do.
Come back with a warrant or
You
leave.
don't write the law. The laws are written.
property with no warrant?
Go get a warrant. You guys are breaking the law right now. You're breaking the law. Go outside. No, go on your
They've
phone
been asked to
outside.
leave
Go
several
on your phone
occasions.
outside.
I would really like it if you
Where
would
did
stop
you hear the
shouting at me.
report
I haven't
from?
done
Okay,
anything
we can look at
wrong.
you break the law. We would like to break the law.
Who reported
So
it?
leave.
Who reported it? Who reported it?
You know what? I don't know.
Yeah,
Because
it's anonymous, right? It's
Yes,
anonymous.
it is.
They
But it's
can't
a
be
legitimate
anonymous.
complaint.
You need to
It
know
can
your
be,
accuser. You need to
that's
know. It
not-
cannot
Okay,
be
wait,
anonymous.
you gotta go get a warrant.
It
That's not
cannot
how
be
health
anonymous.
department
It
do
cannot
it.
be anonymous.
You gotta go get a warrant.
You don't get the
You gotta go
right
get a
to
warrant.
policies. You
It's
don't get to
code
violate the
enforcement.
Constitution.
This
It does
isn't
not
the
matter.
same
You
as
don't
that.
circumvent or subvert the Constitution. That's the way it works.
Call the news.
Okay, miss, you need to leave.
Get out! 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 Get out!
Chris Pallone is the owner.
Pause for a second. Before I go on, look at the difference between those two videos. The first video, one person stood up, nobody stood with her, and she was assaulted and tased. By the way, that officer if I were involved, I would be on the phone with the FBI because he created a federal. I'd be charging him. I'd be calling the state attorney general's office and the FBI for assault, unlawful imprisonment, anything else I could come up with. Because if you're telling me that it is the law to arrest someone for not wearing a mask, then you don't live in a free state. You don't. You live in a communist state. You live in a totalitarian state. But what you have is another group of people, and they get together, and they see somebody defending their rights, and they come together and they help them. They work together. They know their rights. They articulate their rights. They don't stand for someone saying, I'm just doing my job. No, your job is to enforce the law. They're breaking the law. Why are you not enforcing the law? No, it's not a law to wear a mask. Oh, okay, well, and they got together, and when they came to it, they said, listen, we're just going to shout you down. Get out. Get out. You're not welcome here. You have no warrant. You're trespassing. You're not here legally. Get out. Get out. Get out. And they left. That is the difference, my friends. If we stand alone, as Benjamin Franklin said, we must all hang together, or we'll all certainly hang individually. When we work alone, we are targets. If we work together, there is strength in numbers. There were 2 sheriff's deputies. There was a member from code enforcement, a 4th person. I have no idea who they were. They were driven off the property by people who knew the Constitution, knew their rights, were willing to stand up for it, and had neighbors and other people in the restaurant that were willing to stand with them. That, my friends, is peaceful noncompliance. That is what we want if we want to live in a free country. Let me answer. I got a couple questions popped in, so let me take a look at those. In Staten Island last night, 1,500 people came out to support the owner of Max Bar, who's been arrested for opening his bar. Absolutely great. I love hearing that. They need to act together. Absolutely. Everybody, if you are in Staten Island, I would head down to Max. If I live in Staten Island, I'd head down to Max Bar. I don't drink. I'd head down to Max Bar, have a Coke, maybe a sandwich or something, because that's what needs to happen. We need to stand up. I believe I'm in the same situation when you were in New York, the zero representation here. You know what? You're right. Do you recommend moving and leaving to a more free state? So this is what? Roof Koreans? I cannot make that decision for you. You have to look at the way the consequences. Where I was when I did this, now I'll tell you a little bit. We decided to leave. Now again, I lived in New York State all of my life. I had lived there over 50 years. Yes, I'm a little older. Okay. I had friends in New York State. I still have friends in New York State. I don't have any family up there in that. Well, actually, no, that's not true. I do still have family in that part of New York. So there was a lot. It took a lot to move. I left. I had a successful career. I had a home that I'd lived in for 17 years. I raised my daughter in that home. I had friends. I had family. It was comfortable, but it was too much. I couldn't take the empire anymore. There's also a financial hit. Now, I had an opportunity. The company I worked for had a position open outside of Nashville, and I was able to take it. So I at least had someplace to go. But I spent a lot of money to move my family from upstate New York to Middle Tennessee. The real question has to be, are you willing to stand in enemy territory and fight, because that's effectively what you're doing, or will you retreat to safer territory and fight from the outside? And that's a decision that everybody has to make for themselves. I don't belittle the people that stay because they're fighting in enemy territory. And I don't belittle the people that leave because they have to decide what's best for them. So I personally chose Tennessee because there's a website, Freedom in the 50 States. And when I chose the things that were most important to me, the top 3 states were North Dakota, South Dakota, and Tennessee. And I don't have to shovel sunshine here in Tennessee. I got tired of shoveling snow, which is why I didn't go to the Dakotas. Brody, I'm sorry to hear my video had no sound. I'm sorry to hear that. I told to share the sound, but well, technology sometimes. All right, I'm trying to leave New Mexico. Oh, okay. You think the state will be the last to do something under Dem rule for 7 years. That's the decision we'll have to make. See, we have 50 free and independent states. If a state wants to live, if the people in a state want to live under tyranny, let them. It doesn't mean I have to support them. I can leave. Do like Elon Musk said, hey, if you don't want me, I'll go somewhere else. Now it's saying that you can't hear me. Let's see. John Singleton recommends some businesses turn themselves into private membership clubs to protect themselves. You know, I'm not familiar with Mr. Singleton. That may be an option. To me, I'm not sure, because to me that's basically letting them get away with thinking they can order a company to open or not. You know, look at what the Alameda County told Elon Musk. Well, you can't open without our permission. Really? Do the people of California work for the county? Are they servants of the county? Are they subjects of the county, or are they citizens in a free state? So if someone wants to find a way to get around the law, that's one thing. I think we should stand up and say no, because what you're doing is illegal. Any people ask if they knew their oath. I didn't hear that, but that sounds good. Oh, okay. So I don't know. I'm sorry about that. I had the sound turned up, but I've said that next time I try to do my first time doing video. So or playing a video over the broadcast. So apparently I still have work I need to do. Okay, well, let me stop sharing here. Okay, so I've got that. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me go back to what I was sharing, because I've got the rest of that video. And I think the rest of that video, let's try this. I'm trying this. I'll keep my mouth shut so hopefully you can hear over the microphone, but hopefully this will sound better.
Of Rail Club Live in Fort Worth, which is defying Governor Greg Abbott's order that forces businesses that take in 51% or more of their revenue from the sale of alcohol to close indefinitely.
Hundreds of thousands of jobs at risk right now.
The governor made the announcement June 26th to curb an upswing in coronavirus cases, but Pallone says singling bars out is unfair. Rail Club Live opened in protest July 4th. The TABC gave Pallone two choices: shut the party down or lose his license for 30 days. Pallone kept the party going.
It's the 4th of July and we got to do this.
Exactly 3 weeks later, Pallone is at it again, but this time he's not alone. The 8-Ball Billiard and Bar in West Fort Worth has a full parking lot and the open sign lit up. There's also a Freedom Fest banner over the door in solidarity with a statewide protest Pallone spearheaded.
And that's what this is all about. Stand up for what you believe and stand up for the businesses that are being lost every single day.
In a post to Pallone's public Facebook page, he said 800 bars agreed to participate, but it's unclear exactly how many bars actually opened on Saturday.
Like, our members were just, begging us, like, please stay open, please stay open. We're like, we're going to get fined if we stay open. They're like, you guys, we will pay the fines. We'll pay for your first ticket. We'll pay for this.
Jim Corey is owner of Jimmy's Roadhouse in Newaygo. The latest challenge, he says, is yet another state order prohibiting indoor dining at bars and restaurants. The current order runs through December 8th.
You can either go down with the ship, fighting, trying every day. That's what we do.
What he is doing is letting people come inside to eat.
Thank you.
Corey has not been at a loss for customers.
Granville, Grand Haven, Kalamazoo. A construction guy was drove all the way up from Jackson with his family.
So what do those businesses have in common? Again, I stopped after the one where that was actually in Buffalo, where they drove code enforcement out. But what happened? You have a bar that said, no, this is a 4th of July. We're not shutting down the party just because some dweeb in the state capital in was it Dallas? I don't know what the state capital of Texas is. Never memorized him. Just because some dweeb of a governor said, no, he doesn't have the legal authority to do that. That business is your property. We're going to exercise it. Well, then you lose your liquor license. We don't care. I'd have to check, but I don't even think that all these things about health code licenses or health department licenses, but even those are probably questionably constitutional. Why do we, the people, need to ask permission of the government in order to open business? But look what OSHA. So you had this one bar stayed open, and then 800 bars said they would. Did all of them show up? I don't know. But you had 800 bars come alongside and say, yep, we at least say we're going to open as well. You had the lady in the gym whose customer says, we will pay your fines. If you have a small business in your town that you like and they're saying, well, you know, we can't open because we'll get fined, offer to pay the fine. Will you put your money where your mouth is? Will you stand alongside these people? You don't have to be the one out front, but will you stand with these people? Will you stand with them? Will you help them? Will you just go do business with them? You don't, you know, I'm not saying you have to stand out and shout, get out, get out. How about you just go and do business with them? Do everything you can to keep them running, because they're standing up. When they stand up for their rights and liberties, they're standing up for yours as well. Why won't we stand up with them? We see times when they do. What would happen if more and more Americans actually stood up to these bullies in our state capitals and said, you've got no legal right to do that, go away? Well, if you stand alone, you might have tased like that lady in the bleachers. But if you go as a group, if you have people supporting you, you'll be like the people in Buffalo, or like the bar in Texas, or like the lady. You'll be able to look at the guy. He says, I'm out in the middle of nowhere. I got people driving hours to come because I actually am open. When someone stands up for our rights, we need to rush to him or her and support them however you can. I met with my sheriff a month or two ago, because I saw this stuff coming, and I said, listen, you know, I'm expecting, you know, what happens if? He goes, I'm not enforcing any of that. I said, I want you to understand, when I pick up the phone and call 911, I want your sheriff's deputy to understand they're there to protect the rights of the people. All the people, not just me, all the people. He goes, absolutely. What happened when that lady was getting tased? One person, oh, call the police. Well, I think he is the police. I don't care. He's not protecting her rights. Now, I made a very important point to the sheriff. I said, I want you to understand, when I pick up that phone, I'm expecting you and your people to back my rights. But that also means if you stand up for my rights, I will come back you. You know, so if the governor or the president orders something and you just say, no, we won't do this, like the sheriffs in New York, I'm going to stand up with us, you know, stand up with the sheriff and say, no, you're protecting our rights. I'll stand with you. How much do you need? Do you need someone you need a crowd at a press conference? Let's get a crowd. You need people to come and just be there and record what's going on. If the bullies come, I'll do that. What do you need? I took the time to meet with my sheriff and ask those questions. We should do that too, because we're asking the sheriff, the highest law enforcement officer in the county, to stand up for our rights. We should be willing to stand with him or her when they do that. Now let me take a look. I know I had a couple other questions pop in. Let me see if I can find a couple questions. Good, the sound is good. I got that straightened out. That's good. Oh, maybe they couldn't hear me. I don't know. Maybe the system turns my mic off, and it might just turn my mic off when I got the video playing. I'll have to remember that. Did I ever consider a swing state when I left New York? What I was looking for was a free state. I wasn't concerned with politics. I wasn't looking for red or blue or pink or purple or whatever. I was looking for freedom, liberty. I want a government that was going to leave me alone. That was my top priority. Now, the fact that it's funny, again, Tennessee, it's a predominantly red state, but if you live here, you'll know that it's a red state with some very blue pockets in it. Nashville, Memphis, and to a certain extent Knoxville are extremely blue. I lived just outside Nashville. That's not why I did it. I came here because I lived free. Now, I'll tell you how far I went. When I was looking at houses around Nashville, I ended up looking farther and farther outside of Davidson County, which is the county that makes up the Nashville's made up of. I ended up in a county that it's a nice rural county. I got a good bunch of land because I love land, but I live in an unincorporated town. Yeah, there's no zoning for my town. There are certain state zoning rules that I have to abide by, which I'm not thrilled with, but I don't have some code enforcement showing up telling me that, you know, my trees are growing too close to the road, or that, you know, my driveway is not right, or my fence is not. I don't have that. They leave me alone. So that's what I look for. That's my requirement. Be free. I want a constitutional government, and basically leave me alone. Let's see. Boycott Amazon, Costco, Walmart. Okay. I'm not into boycotts. To me, boycotts are a lot of shouting and rarely very effective. The interesting thing, the most effective boycotts I've ever seen actually worked in reverse, because every time there was a period of time when they kept calling to boycott Chick-fil-A, and every time they do, the lines at Chick-fil-A got longer. Now, here's my point of view. If you want to use Amazon, Costco, be my guest. Until Amazon comes up and says, listen, you must buy from me, I buy if I want to. If it's the best deal for me, I use it. When it's not the best deal for me, I don't. Now, I like having local businesses. I have a local bank. It's interesting. I have a national bank and I have a local bank, and I do business with both. I have a local coffee shop. I have local stores. I have a lot of local places I deal with. You know, we have to remember that just because, well, Amazon's not a good example, but there's still, people get a paycheck from Amazon. People get a paycheck from Costco, from Walmart. There are people who they eat better because the prices at Walmart are lower. I can't blame them for that. But yeah, we should do what we can to make sure that businesses, large or small, if they are serving the customer, then we should serve them. So if, you know, it's like our local Walmart, right? There's a point when Walmart had a mask mandate and everybody's supposed to wear. My local Walmart never did that. No, they did ask us to spread out. There wasn't, at the height of the scare-demic, they did say, you know, space people out as they came into the building. They never made me wear a mask. Then they never ordered me to spy on somebody, because they never told me to hand me cards. If you see someone without a mask, report it to it. They never did that. Now, you may not want to support corporate. That's fine. That's completely up to you. But I do what is best for me and for my local area, and you should do that as well. Now, I like in New York City, where you don't have a lot of big Walmart shops, there just isn't room. There's a lot of little mom and pops, and they survive based on local foot traffic. So, you know, we all have to be responsible for our own actions. I don't like trying to tell people what to do. Well, that's not entirely true, because I just told you that you should really help people. You should stand up with people. So I guess if I'm going to be completely fair, I try to minimize that. I tell you my opinion of what we should do. So that's, you know, that's from a business standpoint, do what makes the most sense for you, and ignore the bullies on both sides when they tell you that you must do something or do something else. Let's see. In New Mexico, local groceries have been forced to close based on fake CV tests. So here's the interesting thing. I want to flip the script. They've been bullied to close, right? So Brody here says in New Mexico, groceries have been forced to close. Actually, no, they've been bullied to close. You see, we really need to get away from this idea that we work at the grace of government. We work at the pleasure of government. That these local grocers were only open because government allowed it. No, that's hogwash. That is where the problem comes in. It's not the fact that since Costco and Walmart, they have big lobbyists in Washington and in your state capitals, and you can get lots. The small businesses were bullied into closing. And I wonder how many of them would have closed if the people had showed up and said, listen, you stay open, we'll still do business here. In fact, I'll kick in extra to pay your fines because I want you to be open because I want to fight for your liberty. Your liberty helps protect my liberty, and that's worth something to me. Well, yeah, all right. So, Roof Koreans, yes, Bill Lee did propose a bill that he called constitutional carry. As I understand it, it wasn't true it was kind of constitutional carry light. But you're right. Everybody got so freaked out over COVID, which is I did some math, right? Just so you know, I did a little bit of math. You go to cdc.gov, you look at their COVID center, you take the 13 million positive tests, you look at the 4,000. Since January 20th, there have been 4,110 cases per 100,000 per people, right? So that's the important number. It's not the 13 million that's important. It's the 4,110 per 100,000. Right? That means it's roughly 4%, 4.1% of the tests have come back positive. Now, if I took you to Las Vegas, we found a craps table, and I told you that you had a 96% chance of winning at craps, you would play that game all day long, wouldn't you? If I took you to a poker table and then said, listen, you're only going to lose 4 out of every 100 hands, you'd be there all night, wouldn't you? Yet these people are saying because you stand a 4% chance of catching a bug, you can't live. You are no longer citizens. I did another little bit of math. So the death rate, I forget, I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but the death rate was, I think, 0.06, meaning if you got COVID, if you actually got full COVID and you tested positive for COVID-19, you stood a 6 out of 100,000 chance, or 6 out of 10,000 chance of actually dying with COVID, not necessarily of COVID. Now, there are certain groups that are more susceptible than others, and they should take reasonable chances. We're supposed to be grown adults. Can't we take responsibility for ourselves and make our own decisions? Can't we look at ourselves and say, this is a risk, this is not? My father is 78 years old. He takes extra precautions more than I do. My wife takes a drug that suppresses her immune system. I take a little extra precaution. I'm not huge. I mean, it's not like I stopped going to grocery stores. I just make sure I sanitize my hands when I come home. I did that for myself. I didn't do that because some government wackadoodle told me. I did it because it was the right thing to do. Yes, all-cause morbidity. Yeah, there's one of the numbers they found is that on average, the people who die with COVID die of COVID and 2.6 other things. So it's like, oh yeah, you've got heart disease and you've got lung disease and you've got kidney disease. And oh, by the way, you have COVID. So which one of them killed you? Now, I told you I was going to do this. Let me go back. I told you at the beginning to find your copy of the state constitution, because I want you to. Let me find my. I lost my copy of the Constitution. Where'd it go? I'll find mine. So here, do me a favor. Find your state constitution, and I want you to look for either the Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Rights. Now, some states call it the Bill of Rights. Some states do your search. Just search for of rights, and you should find what you're looking for. And somewhere in there, now I haven't confirmed this in all 50 states. I think I only looked briefly in New York. I didn't find it in New York, so it may not be there. But go find your Constitution and find either the Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Rights. And I want you to find a line that looks. Actually, let me share this out because I want you to see what I'm talking about here. I don't need the sound anymore, so I can turn that off. So here I am. This is the Tennessee Constitution. I have the Declaration of Rights. And right here it says that all power is inherent in the people. Now I've looked, I believe I found it in Pennsylvania, North Dakota, South Dakota, Florida. I've found it in most of the states where I've done some work on the Constitution. Search for that. So what does this mean? All power is inherent in the people. See, we've been living under the misconception that power comes from government. No. All power is inherent in the people. Declaration of Independence, that we are endowed by our Creator with certain unalienable rights, among them are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to protect these rights, governments are instituted among men. We institute governments to protect our rights. The power is ours. But then look what it says. All free governments are founded on their authority, instituted by their peace, and by and happiness. Now yours may say something a little different, but find this, so that like those people in Buffalo, when government shows up, you say, wait a second, no, all power is inherent in the people. Free governments are founded on our authority. You get to do what we tell you collectively, what we tell you can do, and we did that through the Constitution. We formed states by creating constitutions where we commissioned, we delegated power and authority to our governments. And look, and see, I've been surprised how many of these emergency powers acts say little about actually ordering the people to stay home or wear masks or any of that. But here's the thing to remember. For the advancement of those ends, they have at all times an unalienable and indefeasible right to alter, reform, or abolish the government in such manner as they may think proper. Now again, this is Tennessee. Look at your Constitution. Find out these words. Write them down if you have to. Carry them, because these are the words of power. These are the words of strength. These are the words that say the people have a right to stand up and say, no, we have delegated you power and you're abusing it. So when the school resource officer is trying to arrest someone for not wearing a mask, wait, time. You have not been delegated that authority. You, sir, are breaking the law. And I'm calling and I'm going to press charges. Now, did those charges go anywhere? Well, if one person calls up, no. But what would have happened if a dozen people called up and said, listen, you've got some out of control school resource officer. He just tased a woman for not wearing a mask. People went crazy. When the guy up in New York died because he resisted arrest for selling Lucy's, and everyone was all about Lucy's. Why didn't that people up in arms about a lady getting tased for not wearing a mask in the open air on public property? So now you've done that. I want to show one other thing here, because I've done a little research. I was asked to do a little research back at the beginning of this craziness. If you go to constitutionstudy.com and you look up, you search for knowing your rights, you'll find this little PDF. And this little PDF has some very important stuff on it. So, I quote John Jay, by knowing their rights, they will sooner perceive when they're violated, and be the better prepared to defend and assert them. Let's go back to the lady on the bleachers in the Buffalo restaurant. How many people in the bleachers knew their rights? None of them were prepared to defend and assert them. They certainly weren't prepared to defend her rights. But look at Buffalo. They knew their rights. They knew that the government, regardless of the badge they wore, regardless of the ID they carried, they were not allowed on private property without a warrant, unless there's immediate necessary circumstances. They were prepared. They knew what the law was. They knew what the supreme law of the land was. They knew what their they even know when the guy said, well, it's the law. No, it's not the law. It's the government. It's an executive order. They knew. They were prepared. We need to be prepared, and we can start by understanding our Constitution. I bring up the Fourth Amendment. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated. That was what happened in Buffalo. You have a property in your business. It's not just land. You have a property in your business. You have a property in your licenses. I did an article on James Madison and the importance of property. You can find that on the website. You have a property in your rights. You have a property in your business. You have a property in anything you have a financial investment in. Art Amendment 5, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. So when they told the bars shut down, no, you're depriving me of my property without due process. No. When they went to shut down the hairdressers or the barbers or the restaurants, and they said, no, because you're trying to deprive me of my property without due process of law. Understand the law. Article 6, section, clause 2 says the Constitution supersedes state law and state constitution. You cannot be deprived of it. It doesn't say you shall not be deprived of life or property without due process, unless it's an emergency. It doesn't say if there's a pandemic or if the governor declares an emergency. It isn't in there. The 14th Amendment, no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges and immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. Know these, memorize these, take this, print this out, carry it with you, hand it to those businesses. If you've got businesses that say, oh, I'm afraid to, hand it to them. A few months ago, not the county I live in, neighboring county issued a mask mandate, and I was at an event there, and there was some concern that, well, people, we're not supposed to have to wear a mask, but, and I said, it's simple. They have no legal authority to make you wear a mask. Not on public property, they don't. What was interesting is the organizer said, fine, if the police show up, I'm sending them to your table. I said, bring it. Why? Because I knew the Constitution. I recognized when my rights were being violated. And I was prepared to defend not only my rights, but the rights of everyone else, all the other vendors at that event. I was prepared to defend their rights. When are we going to do that as a whole? We see spots of it. And you know what? You don't find that out on the media, do you? I bet you most of those video clips people haven't seen on the news media. They haven't seen it on social media. So I got to find this stuff out for yourself. Now down here at the bottom, there's a couple points I want to make. This is where the sheriff's deputy is saying, well, I'm just doing my job. It's the law. You got to do this. You know what? Alexander Hamilton said there is no position which depends on clear principles that every act of a delegated authority, contrary to the tenet of its commission under which it is exercised, is void. When we create state governments, we delegated them authority. When someone assumes an office, they swear an oath. They are commissioned into an office with a delegated authority. And when they act contrary to that commission, contrary to the Constitution, that act is void. And for those who are judicial supremacists, think, well, and somehow believe that magically the Supreme Court gets to tell everybody what the Constitution means, Chief Justice John Marshall in the Martyr versus Madison case said, thus the particular phraseology of the Constitution of the United States confirms and strengthens the principle, supposed to be essential to all written constitutions, that a law repugnant to the Constitution is void, and that all courts as well as other departments are bound by that instrument. Whether it's a federal law, a state law, an executive order from a governor, from a mayor, doesn't matter. If it is repugnant to the Constitution, it is void. Now, part of our problem is we have allowed the courts, we have allowed our representatives to let the courts get out of control. The courts think they're kings and queens. Just look at that court, that judge in Texas. Oh, you've offended the county, you've offended this. No, you have offended me because you're telling me that the government, I work at the behest of the government, that I am a slave to the government. The government tells me when I can work, where I can work, how I can work. that is a slave. That is not a free citizen. I would have had some, it's probably a good thing I wasn't in that court, because I would have had some pretty choice words for that particular judge. I find him contemptible. But here's the other part, and this is the one I want to explore some more. I'm not going to do it tonight, but I've been doing some research on this, and I want to do some more. That's 18 USC, or U.S. Code Section 242, the deprivation of rights under color of law. Now, I want you to think back to the resource officer, the bleacher guy, right? Whoever, under color of any law, statute, ordinance, regulation, or custom, willfully subjects any person in any state, territory, commonwealth, possession, or district to the deprivation of any rights, privileges, or immunities secured or protected by the constitutional laws of the United States. This man, under color of law, deprived that woman of her liberty, of her property in her own body, under color of law. That sheriff deputy in Buffalo, I'm just doing my job. No, you're not. You swore an oath to the Constitution, support the Constitution, in that case of the state of New York and of the United States, which says you cannot deprive people of their rights without due process of law. You are violating your oath of office. But look, where are we here? Okay. Shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 1 year or both. And if bodily injury results from the acts committed in the violation, or if such injury includes use or attempted use or threatened use of dangerous weapons, explosives, or fire, shall be fined or imprisoned not more than 10 years or both. That man used violence. That's school resource officer in the bleachers. Used violence, assaulted her, laid hands on her. He committed assault, and then he used a dangerous weapon. Tasers are classified as dangerous weapons in most jurisdictions. They are generally considered less than lethal, but they are still dangerous weapons. That means if there were justice in this country, he would go to jail for up to 10 years. We need to know these laws. That's why I said, we're not the ones violating the laws. We're the ones enforcing the laws. We're the ones standing up for the laws. When you take a void law and you ignore it, you're standing up for the superior law. That gentleman in the bleachers, that sheriff's deputy in Buffalo, they were trying to apply an inferior law. We should be applying the superior law. The people in Buffalo were applying the superior law. They knew that the Constitution superseded any act of the Congress, of the state legislature, or the state constitution. And it said you cannot be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. You cannot. No ifs, ands, or buts. We need to adopt this peaceful non-compliance. We need to do it not just for ourselves. We need to support our neighbors. We need to support the men and women that are standing up as well. We need to join with them, whether we support them financially, whether we support them with being there, whether we support them with, hey, guess what? I just found this placard. This guy named Paul, he gave me this placard. Here, take this. Help understand the rights that you're trying to protect here. Do I really think that if I pick up the phone and call the FBI, they would suddenly, guys with badges and sunglasses and things in the ears would show up and start investigating? No, I don't. But what happens when a dozen, 100, 1,000 people start filing complaints with the FBI over the actions of these tyrants? If nothing else, I want, it's there to inform the criminal, the true criminal, the one that's actually breaking the superior law. Excuse me, sir, you are breaking federal law right now. Excuse me, sheriff's deputy, you're breaking federal law. You could go to jail for a year for what you are doing right now. Do you really want to go down that road? Because if you go arrest me, my first call is to my lawyer, my second call is to the FBI. Okay, hey, Tom, I've got a question on a rebuttal. So Tunneler, does this, if this has to do with what we've been chatting about, put it in that comment and I'll probably answer tomorrow morning. We've been going about an hour. I was hoping that I was hoping more people would show up. I know it's hard because I'm not on Facebook. I had several people say they were going to join me on Zoom, and they didn't. And I don't know about you, but I had to get this out. I think this is important information. I think this is information we need to share because we're losing our rights and liberties. We're not actually, no, we're not losing them. We're letting them slip through our fingers because we refuse to hold on to them. It's like we don't value them. It's like we're more worried that someone's going to call us a name or, maybe somebody with a badge. It's almost like we've been trained to be subjects, not citizens. Now, do you want to live as a subject? Do you want to live as a serf? Do you want to live at the behest of some government official? Or do you value your rights? More importantly, do you value the rights of your children? Because every right we let slip here today in 2020 is a right our children will not be allowed to exercise from now on. You think they're going to stop with COVID-19? Monday's article is about a Supreme Court case. It's like, oh, once the vaccines are out. No. Once government gets a power, they don't let go. Why do you think we're still under lockdowns? Why do you still think there are states that are fining people for living? Why do you think you have petty tyrants telling you what you can do for Thanksgiving? Do you really think they're not going to do the same thing for Christmas? How much are your liberties worth? Is it worth spending a little money? Is it worth getting off your butt and supporting some of these people that are standing up? Is it worth standing up yourself? Is it worth just taking this video and liking it and sharing it with somebody else? What are your liberties worth? Because right now, we are doing exactly what Benjamin Franklin warned us about. He said, and I'm going to paraphrase, he says, those who would give up essential liberties for the promise of a temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. And right now, the vast majority of the American people, it appears, deserve neither liberty nor safety. But we see, as we saw in those videos, there are people standing up. And in some cases, it's onesie twosies. In some cases, it's a whole neighborhood in New York City. What are we doing to support them? What are we doing to help them? What are we doing to tell them, not only are my rights important, but your rights are important? You know, there was a saying when I was a kid, I may vehemently disagree with what you have to say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. You know, I may vehemently disagree with how you do business, but I will defend to the death your right to do business because that is yours. I will defend to the death. Who will stand up and say, I will defend to the death our right to live free, not under the boot of a tyrant? Just because we call ourselves a democracy, which we're not, by the way, but just because we call ourselves a democracy or we call ourselves a republic doesn't mean we're not ruled by tyrants. And it will continue until we, the people, decide how we're going to fix our government. Because if we don't fix this problem now, by doing it at the ballot box, by doing it in the streets, by supporting these people, these brave people that are standing up to a tyrannical government, our only choice will be to fight for our rights on the battlefield. It happened in 1776. In some cases, you could say it happened in 1863. It happened in Tennessee in 1946. Just look at my article on the Battle of Athens. Is that really what you want for your children? Do you really value your right and liberty so little that just because somebody who got elected to office says, I get to order you around, I am the boss, you will do what you're told, you're going to back down like a sheep, like a serf, like a peasant? Like you don't own your land, you don't own your property, you don't own your body. Is it scary? Yeah, it's scary. Not everyone may be up to the call, but those who are up to the call need to stand. And those who are not up to the call need to stand behind them and support them however they can. All right, that's all right. Tunneler, I was about to wrap it up, but you hit another pain point. It is about darn time we stop waiting for someone else to fix our mess. The NRA can fight. Blank the NRA. Now listen, I'm a lifetime NRA member. They got some problems right now, but I don't put my rights in the hands of the NRA. I don't put my rights in the hand of any organization. They are mine. I need to defend them. They are my families. I need to defend them. We need to stop looking for some, oh, Mr. Trump will fix it. Mr. Biden will fix it. Oh, the Supreme Court will fix it. Oh, the bullcrap. The only one that will protect your rights is you. And if you're lucky, your neighbors. The next person says, listen, would you put your paycheck and expect the NRA to defend your paycheck? No, then why would you do it with your rights? If you're expecting someone else to do your job, you are a lazy sluggard, and you deserve neither tyranny, you deserve neither liberty or safety. Because you're giving up your right and expecting someone else to defend it for you. And that disgusts me. What really disgusts me is I used to be one of them. I learned. No one else. The NRA is out there defending your rights. They're defending the Second Amendment. Wonderful. I was at the Tennessee Firearms. I spoke at the Tennessee Firearms Association last month. Great. They defend the Second. What about our First Amendment rights? What about our right to be secure in our houses? Is the NRA going to protect that bar or that restaurant in Buffalo? No. Is the NRA defending the bar owner in Texas or the hairdresser in Texas? No. Stop looking for someone else to clean up the mess we have made. It's our damn fault. We need to fix it. And if we're not going to fix it, we deserve the crap. We get the government we deserve. James Garfield said that if the Congress is ignorant, reckless, and corrupt, it's because the people tolerate ignorance, recklessness, and corruption. And if we're expecting someone else to go fix it for us, we are idiots. And that's a tough pill to swallow. Because I'm sure I've just pissed off a bunch of people out there. In fact, some of you may even shut off the video by now. You may not even hear what I'm saying. It is not the NRA's job to protect your rights. It's not any third-party organization. You want to support them, that's fine. But it's not their job to protect your rights. That is the mindset of a slave, of a servant, of a serf. Someone else will do it for me. The heart of a citizen, the heart of a patriot says, no, I'll defend it. He looks at those coming for his rights and he says, I'm going to stand my ground, Captain John Parker. I'm going to stand my ground. I'm not going to fire unless fired upon, but if they want to have war, bring it on. We're going to have it right here, right now, because that's my job, not to leave it to my children. That one gets right under my skin. And you're right, you don't learn about the Constitution in school. Wait a second. Where do we get the brilliant idea that somehow government is responsible for what our children learn? I know we've been taught that at 5 years old, you tack them up and you hand them to the government. You say, here, you educate them. Wrong. You're expecting someone else to do your job. If you're a parent, you're responsible for educating your children. If the government school can't do it yourself, or find someone else who will. This whole idea of mandatory payment for public school is a joke. It is a deprivation of rights. It's going to say, we know better than you do what your children should learn. Yeah, that's part of the reason why we're in this mess. There's a reason why my daughter never took a class at public school. The only time she set foot in a public school was to take a test or to use a swimming pool. Why? Because her education was too important to leave it to the administrations of government. Now, let's face it, there are a lot of I've met a lot of really awesome teachers, and most teachers really want to do a great job, but they're hamstrung in a system that tells them what they have to teach. Sorry, you're great people, but I don't trust you with my daughter. I don't trust you with her education. You're right, it's been our job. It always has been our job. Let's get off our butts and do it. Let's get our faces out of our iPhones, get off of the Netflix. Let's pay a little bit of attention. Let's learn a little bit, and then let's do our job. What if that person speaking is a communist? Hey, if they want to be a communist, as long as you don't listen. If someone wants to be a communist, someone wants to be a socialist, that's fine, as long as they don't force anyone else to do it. They have a right to live however they wish. It's when they force other people to do it that we have a problem. Let's face it, we all live socialist lives. Why? We're in families. My family is very socialist. I earned the money. My wife educated our daughter. When our daughter was little, she contributed nothing, but she still got fed. She still got clothed. The problem is it doesn't scale. See, I voluntarily take care of my family. I decided when I said I do to my bride, I made a commitment that I voluntarily made a commitment, and I stand by that commitment. But as soon as I tell you, no, you're responsible for taking care of my wife. No, that's where you're going too far. If you want to live as a socialist, if you want to live as a communist, that's why I said, if the people of a state want to live in a communist state, let them. Just don't force other people to join. If socialism and communism are so great, why are they only implemented by force? They have always been implemented by force. Let's see. Well, Rad's right. If you censor the right of a commie to propagate nonsense, that's absolutely, Tom Lord. It's a right. It's amazing what happens when we treat rights like rights, and not like the opportunity to bully other people into our way of thinking. Would you give someone else your parachute to prepare for you? If you do, you better trust them really, really well. I definitely made everyone at my local gun farm. Well, you know what? I do that sometimes because I point out the truth, at least as best I can. And again, if you want to go off and join the NRA, you want to go off and join NARA, I don't care. Just don't force, we can't use our rights to infringe on the rights of another. Would voluntarily give money to your family really be socialism? Yes, because what is social? Socialism is the sharing of resources, the pooling of resources. Now, we attach it to this government mindset because, well, again, that's what we've been kind of trained. But at its heart, socialism just means shared. It means I have a shared checking account with my wife. I put money in. Sometimes I take money out. Sometimes she takes money out. Right? When socialism so you've got socialism, the entity, the theory. You've got socialism, the monetary theory, and you got socialism, the government theory. That's where things change. See, again, as a family, we have a form of government, right? We have shared resources, but when the when someone else says, I have the authority to tell you to do that, then we've got a problem. So yeah, if, I lived in New York, it's about as communist as you can get, a good chunk of New York. If that's the way they want to live, be my guest. I have friends and family that still live there. Trust me, I'm trying to get some of them to leave. That's their choice. If they want to live in a socialistic, tyrannical empire, that's their choice. I'm more than happy for them to come live in a freer state. I have no more authority to tell them they cannot live in a socialist environment than they have the right to tell me that I must. So yeah, you know what, Bright Clips, here's what you can do, right? I love working with middle school, high school kids. My material is mostly focused at the middle school and up. You want me to help? I will volunteer. I don't know where you are. If we can work out the details, excuse me, I will voluntarily, if I can get my expenses covered, I will voluntarily come to your town and I will teach a class about the Constitution. I did this up in North Dakota back in February. They flew me up to North Dakota. I had like 150, 200 middle school, high school students and their parents for a day. We spent about 6 hours, I think. And we did a broad primer of the entire Constitution. I won't charge you for the event. I just want if I can get my expenses covered, if we can find someone to sponsor the expenses for wherever you are. If you're in the U.S., wherever you are, if we can work that out, I will come and teach a class. I do everything. I set up all the web, I shouldn't say that. I don't do everything, all right? I set up the website. I set up the registration. I handle all the sign-ins and stuff. I bring up all the material. All you really need to do is find a venue, get people to attend. That's not little, but and we can find a way to cover the expenses. I'll show up. There's another great group. I'm going to mention. Check out 917society.org, 917society.org. They are trying to get constitutions in the hands of every 8th grader in the country on Constitution's Day, which is September 17th. Talk to them, volunteer. They would be more than happy to get some help getting that done in your state as well. Let's just not say, oh, it's too bad. Let's do something about it. Trying to get my out of California. I haven't been there. That would be awesome. When you say do that I kind of lost the thread there, Tunnel Lord. When you talk about coming out and talk to your range, I'd love to. I would love to. I love going out to these. I love getting in front of people and talking. I've been dying because I've had everything shut down. So right now, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get to the point where I don't have to ask for funding for the travel. That's part of why I sell stuff on the website, right? So if you go to constitutionstudy.com, you donate, that goes to the podcast. If you go to the shop and you buy books and memberships, that helps pay me so I can do things like go to these events. Now, since I don't have the funding yet to cover it myself, all I ask for is travel expenses. And right now, there's probably not a lot of flying going on, so I tend to drive. But we'd work something out, right? We'd figure something out. But I love doing this because to me, it's all about education. And I have a bit of a passion. You may have noticed. And I get excited. And sometimes you have a little bit of fun while we're at it. So absolutely. So winter's right around the corner. So here's the other thing, by the way, everybody. So if you can't get me there in person, we can always do something over the internet. I have Zoom. Now, it's not as nice on a Zoom call as it is in person. But guess what? There's no travel expenses. You don't have to pay anything if we do a Zoom call. So if you want to do something with me, go to constitutionstudy.com. Look under speaking requests, I think. You'll see, you'll ask for a speaking request. Give me some background. I do them all the time. You want me to talk to your gun range and you can't bring me out? Because I don't know where you are, Tunnel Lord. Let's set up an internet meeting and we'll talk about the importance of the Constitution to Second Amendment groups. We can talk about pretty much anything constitutional that you want. More than happy to do that. Absolutely. I want to make bright clips. No, it's not the virus that has messed everything up. It's the government's reaction to the virus. It's the government's overreaction to the virus that has messed everything up. Let's not blame a little piece of protein for what government officials have used as an excuse for. It is not the virus that has caused the problem. It is governments overreacting to the virus that has caused the problem. So, absolutely. Tunnel Lord's up in Idaho. I haven't been to Idaho. So tell you what we do, Tunnel Lord. If you're interested, let's set up something. We'll do a web thing, and then let's see about setting something up in person come spring or summer. I'm hoping to go back out to North Dakota. They had a Freedom Fest this year. It was in August. And I'm expecting them to do it again in 2021. Who knows? Maybe I make a loop. I can hit North Dakota, Idaho. I don't know. We'll see what we can do. The thing is, let's see what we can set up. We'll do what we can. Sounds good. All right, Tom. So contact me. You put comments in. If you go to the website and you either ask a question or if you ask a question or if you submit a speaker request, it takes you to the same place. It's just a little thing. Give me a brief understanding. Let's start a conversation. See what we can work out. Sounds like a great idea. My opinion on the virus and the U.S. government's reaction. Ooh. Okay, that's one of these good news, bad news things. Good news. Let's start with good news, right? I got good news, I got bad news. The good news is, for the most part, the executive branch did not try to take over how states react. No, for the most part, they said, states, you do what you think is best and we will support you. For the most part, not completely. I think the federal government relied too heavily on bureaucrats and idiots to in the reaction. They took these models, which are basically just guesses. 30 years in IT, I know what a model is. It's a guess, and the guess was stupid. And so there was that. But then what did they do? They started spending money like you would not believe. They spent trillions of dollars. The federal government spent trillions of dollars to pay people off for the money that the state governments had stolen from them, state and local governments, by shutting their businesses down. So that's the bad. So good news, they didn't dictate to the states how they must react. The bad news is they basically bribed the American people with $1,200 a head to say, listen, don't blame us for this mess. And they're doing it again. Then they spent billions of dollars buying vaccines. Where in the Constitution does Congress give them the authority to spend money to collect taxes to buy vaccines? The answer is nowhere. Now, someone out there is going to say, well, it's a general welfare clause. No, the general welfare clause says the general welfare of the United States, not the general welfare of the people. So Congress spent money they didn't have. They put us even further in debt. You have the CDC going crazy, thinking they are suddenly dictators. Oh, CDC, I didn't argue. They said, oh, you can't evict somebody. What does the CDC know about renters? It was crazy. So at this point, the only thing I can think of that is on the good side is they didn't directly dictate to the states, we're taking over. They told the states, listen, you do what you got to do, we'll help. But then they spent money on vaccines, they spent money on bribing the American people. Why is the federal government buying vaccines? Why? Oh, because they're going to give them to the people for free. Great, more stupid socialized medicine. Yeah, it's bad. Frank in New York, government shut us all down. Yeah, that's nothing new. Well, again, governments didn't change your mindset. Governments did not shut you down. Governments bullied you into shutting down. Now, unless the state troopers walked in, guns drawn, and said, close the doors or else, the government did not shut you down. They threatened your businesses with fines. They threatened you with citations. And in some cases, they threatened you individually with jail time for an illegal order. And the vast majority of the American people submitted. They submitted to tyranny. Now, I know it's a petty little thing, but this mindset makes a difference. If you point to the government shut me down, then it's not your fault. You had nothing to do with it. But I've just spent the last hour, better part of an hour and a half, telling you, no, you did this. You stood back while they did this. You let them do it. You submitted to the bully. And guess what happens when you submit to a bully? They bully even more. So I understand that mentality, but it's something I really want us to break. The government didn't shut us down. The virus didn't shut us down. The government used the virus as an excuse to bully us into shutting down. That's why when Fauci says, do what you're told, I got something I'm going to tell him what to do. Mr. Fauci, you show up here and you tell me to do what I'm told. No, I am an American citizen. You are an employee of the government. You're an employee of the American people. You do what you're told by the Constitution, or you find another job. It's about time the American people stood up to this. When did we elect Fauci king? It's about time the American people stand up and say, no more of this. Taking a line from that old movie, Network, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take it anymore. It's about time. We don't need to fight them. We just need to stop complying with them. Stop listening to the bullies. I know it's scary when you're standing there alone and this big bully's after you, but get some friends and stand up to the bully. Yeah, I would say the executive branch, I would say Trump, by not, let's face it, if this was Obama, and I can't prove this, but if this was Obama, I would fully expect all of a sudden Obama to be sending dear colleague letters to each and every government official saying, this is what you must do. To have the National Institutes of Health and all these illegal federal agencies applying pressure to the states, and that didn't happen. That's good. But Congress really made a mess of this, and those are the people that directly work for us. And we just hired 90-some-odd% of them back. The tyrants that are spending you into oblivion, we hired them back. It's a mess. Okay, it's about 8:40 my time. I've been on here about an hour and 40 minutes. I love this, but I do really have to get out of here. The owner of Staten Island Tower was arrested by city sheriff on Tuesday night. Well, guess what? It's about, again, Buffalo. If there were 1,500 people showed up and protected that man, how many people have gone to the sheriff of Staten Island, because Staten Island is a county, so the sheriff is in, and said, wait a second, you swore an oath to support the Constitution, not to support Cuomo or de Blasio. And the Constitution says you cannot deprive this man of his property without due process. So, listen, we didn't have a large crowd. You've been a great bunch. We've had a grand old time. I want to, again, please share this information. If you found this useful, share it. If you can help either by donating on the website or buying some stuff, great. I'm actually going to do a giveaway. Head over to the website, sign up for the newsletter, because I'm doing a giveaway for Bill of Rights Day, which is December 15th. So keep that in mind. with all that, I want to thank everybody for the time they spent. I want to thank everybody for being involved. Great questions, great stuff. It was a wonderful time. And I will be back here again next Thursday for my regularly scheduled live stream. So if you want to attend that in the Zoom room, head to constitutionstudy.com/live and register, and you'll get the link to the Zoom call. Anyway, everyone have a great time, and hopefully I'll see you next week.